Welcome back to the Gridiron Drive YouTube channel. Today we've got the Miami Dolphins on deck, talking everything you need to know about their upcoming season, all the fantasy football implications, all the gambling insight that you need. Comment down below the video. Let us know what you think is in store for the Miami Dolphins in 2024. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of the other teams in the NFL that we're going to hit leading up to the season kicking off. All right, let's head to South Beach. Get ready to squish the fish. Tell me all about the Miami Dolphins. What do we think?
All right. The Miami Dolphins, I think they're going to face some significant challenges this year. They have some key losses on both lines. They lost Christian Wilkins. They lost Robert Hunt. And they got potential injuries on the defensive line, too. I think Chubb and what's his name? Who was the guy they drafted?
Jalen Phillips.
Jalen Phillips, yes. One of them, I think it was Chubb, got hurt real late in the season. And I don't think Phillips is coming back early either. So that's huge. Their schedule is easier at the beginning of the season. And, you know, they have that high-speed offense that could catch teams off guard early in the season. However, as the season progresses, especially when they're traveling to colder climates, they might struggle more. And, you know, they have that insane I kind of love it. It's like that when they're home in the summer, they put the away team in the sun and they make them wear their dark jerseys. But I was looking through their schedule. So, yeah, the first game of the year, you know, they're home. It's a 1 o'clock game. But then Thursday night football. And they're in Seattle. Then another Monday night football. And then you're into October. Yep. So that little edge is kind of gone there. And then they end their season at Cleveland in a beautiful, sunny, I'm sure, Cleveland. And then in the Meadowlands against the Jets D, which is probably going to be 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts. They're transitioning from a covered I don't know what Fangio runs, but it's more like a conservative kind of defense to you know, more blitz heavy style. I think Anthony Weaver comes from the Baltimore Rex Ryan tree. Mm-hmm. That could be interesting. That could negate some of their losses, you know, if you're just going to blitz all the time. Yeah. I like Chop Robinson and Mo Kamara. I think that could add value, but I don't think they're 3-down players.
Right.
But they're fast as hell. So that's the Dolphins.
This team
right?
has a type.
Yeah.
On both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
They have a type.
But like the big question is like they have the great, you know, speed. They have a great offense. I love the head coach. I love his progressiveness in terms of NFL offenses. But like, can they beat the upper echelon teams this year? Mm-hmm. Their best win last year was against the Cowboys, and I think it was a 2-point win. That might have been like 22 points they scored. That was the only above-average team they beat last year. They lost to the Bills twice. They lost to Kansas City twice if you include the playoffs. They lost to Baltimore. They lost to the Eagles. So if they want to reach their peak, they'll need to beat some of those, you know, some of those powerhouse AFC teams. And especially in the winter, you know, is Tua an elite quarterback, or is he just an above-average, great system quarterback?
Right.
I don't know. I like Tua. That's not like a knock on him, but is he more like Kirk Cousins, or is he Josh Allen? You know,
right?
You could win with Kirk Cousins. I have no problem with that. I don't know. I'm a little bit down on this team. I was looking at my power rankings. Where did I put that? I don't love the Dolphins this year. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I mostly agree. They're a good collection of talent, and this is probably a little unfair to Tua, but he's always going to have that sort of stigma of like, oh, but he's one hit away from, you know,
that's fair
time.
Though.
And it is fair, but I also feel like it's fair to say that about like anybody. You know,
also
what I mean?
Fair, yeah.
But he does have the track record there, and they did just pay him a boatload of cash. And I agree. I don't think he's like an elite option at quarterback. I think he has a skill set that fits what McDaniel wants to do really well
Perfectly. Yeah.
and has great game breaking talent around him. And that's not a knock on him. Like, I don't like to, you still got to get the ball there. And like Tyreek and Waddle and those guys are great, but he's still got to play his part. But I agree. It's like the contract feels a little like, oh man, like they might regret that.
Top tier guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just the division, man. Like, if they were in a different division, I think they're an easy team on paper to be like, okay, this team's going to win the division. But with the Jets the way they're built and with the Bills the way they're built, I think that there's an uphill battle there. Like, it wouldn't shock me if they were the third team in the division.
Right.
And maybe like
they're priced at that.
Yeah, maybe that's counting on, Jets all staying healthy. But if we're Madden turn injuries off, like, I think it's the third best team in the division. They lost some pieces that really can't be overstated to me. Like, losing Christian Wilkins hurts. Like, that's a massive loss.
It's almost
massive
malpractice.
Loss.
Like,
crazy to lose that kind of
draft him,
defensive tackle.
You progress him, and then you just get nothing for him.
Yeah, wild. From a fantasy perspective, I'm fading Raheem Mostert in redraft because I think while I do think there's a chance that he does it again, because I think if he stays healthy, he's still going to have a role. But that's like the big if, right? Like, he never stays healthy.
Right.
Last year was the year he stayed healthy. So if I'm betting on it, I'm betting he won't stay healthy, and I'll just let somebody else have that headache. That's not really a risk I'm willing to take. I'll look for other options at running back. Sleeper-wise, redraft, I kind of like Jonnu Smith as a sleeper at tight end. It feels gross. Like, it's not sexy at all. Jonnu Smith had the quietest, 600-yard receiving season last year in Atlanta, 582 and 3 touchdowns, which isn't great, but tight end stinks. So pretty much for me, if I'm not getting one of the guys I value as a clear-cut, top 6 or 7 option, I don't really care anymore.
Right.
Like, I'll just take the guys I like at price eventually. Like, I'm fine just kind of punting it all together and not necessarily saying, okay, I'm going to step in and take, somebody like Njoku earlier than I would like to, depending on how the board's fallen, if there's still a serious amount of wide receiver and running back talent available. Because I feel like I could stack a couple guys late or play the stream game and just bet on, positive touchdown regression, essentially. Because the difference between tight end, 12 and tight end 25 is minuscule at best, honestly. Like, in those middle rounds, I would just rather be hammering wide receiver and running back. So Jonnu Smith feels gross, but I think he'll be at the top of the tight end depth chart there. I think he'll have a role. And in Dynasty, I'm trying to see if I can get myself a deal on Jalen Waddle. I know most Dynasty players are still holding him in pretty high regard. I think, now might be a small window where they adjust that Tyreek contract. Now everybody's back to Tyreek's going to play longer than just, a year or two. Maybe you can get yourself a sneaky little small discount on Jalen Waddle, because Waddle to me is still pretty firmly in that top. He's a top 10 guy for me right now. I'll tell you that. I have him wide receiver 10 in Dynasty, ranked right. I have him one spot behind Tyreek Hill because I refuse to move Tyreek Hill down any further than 9. And if it wasn't for age, he'd be 2 or 1, whatever. But I have Waddle right around guys like Puka, Tyreek, Olave, Ayuk. And I don't know, Waddle's kind of locked in. There's nothing really uncertain about it. He got the extension. He's going to keep doing what he's doing. And all he's ever done is get you 1,000 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns typically. Last year, he was 1,014 yards and 4 touchdowns in 14 games. So I don't know. He doesn't miss a couple, and he probably gets you 1,200 yards, maybe another touchdown.
Right.
That's playing across from Tyreek Hill. We've seen him be the guy without Tyreek. He's still super productive with Tyreek. So Waddle's still a smash for me. He's the kind of guy that I'll take him as my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty as a pinch. If I have him as my second guy, I'm absolutely thrilled.
Yeah.
All right. What do we think from a gambling side on the Dolphins?
Real quick, I just wanted to touch on fantasy.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. It's all good. What do you think about their running back trio? I know you touched on Mostert, but How do you think that shakes out?
Annoying. Like
Yeah,
there's people that will scream from the hilltops about Devon A Chain, and I
I'm
can't
that
do it.
guy.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I get it. The what I always get is like, oh, last year he was so great when he was healthy. I was like, yeah, and then he got hurt.
Yeah,
And like that's exactly what I was worried about though. So I get it. He's an absolute game breaker. But oh man, he's so hard because I do not trust that he will stay healthy at all. I just don't. And maybe that's not fair, but he's just so teeny tiny
yeah, he's
small.
got the outlier size. Yeah,
And I like, man, if you're going to bet on a guy with outlier size, make it him, right? He's an absolute game breaker from a speed perspective. And I do still have him ranked as an RB1 in Dynasty, right? He's still top 12 for me. It's just I don't really have any. Like, I don't really have any exposure to him because I can't get him and really feel comfortable with it. But I think he'll be involved. If Mostert's healthy, I think he's still going to be involved this year. And guess what? They drafted another fast running back, Jalen Wright, like from Tennessee. Like they're just going to put as many fast guys on the field as possible all at the same time.
yeah. That's why I wanted to ask you about that, because it's frustrating because I loved A-Chain so much, and then they drafted Wright, and I'm like, ugh.
It does make me wonder a little bit. Like, do they also feel like he can't stay healthy?
Obviously, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the betting the Miami Dolphins here. Some gambling insight. They are currently plus 220 to win a division, so I think that would put them at third. Their win-loss over-under is set at 9.5 at a minus money here. Like I was saying earlier, I was talking a lot of negative about the Dolphins, but I'm looking at my power rankings, and I still have them power ranked 13. I just don't trust them in the big game, but that has nothing to do with gambling. They can they cover the spread? So I think the time to bet the Dolphins, much like the Jets, would be early on, because they have that high-powered offense that, defenses or teams in general, they might be a little bit slow to start. The preseason now is not what it used to be. So I feel like teams are less ready than when the preseason was more ramped up.
Right.
So, as long as the numbers are right, I would look to bet the Dolphins early. Maybe you can catch some teams asleep. But then, man, like I'm not touching them against the Jets week 17. I'm not touching them against the Browns. Like, then they go 49ers. Excuse me. Dude, like their landing schedule is awful.
Yeah.
They play the Packers at Green Bay. Then they play the Jets, Miami. Play at Houston. Then they play the 49ers. Then at the Browns, at the Jets. Like, that is like, I'm not touching them in any of those games. Like, I don't think, So is Tariq going to be healthy for all these games? Is Waddle going to be healthy? I don't know. So my suggestion would be to bet them early. That's really it. I mean, 9.5. I don't love that.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight on them gambling?
It's 9.5 is tough.
Yeah.
It's not super comfortable. Because I mean, it feels right, but it's just tough to pick a comfortable side, Like, I think I would lean the under, and like, not to be a hater on them, but I just think they're due for some undesirable things to happen, right? Like,
that's part of paying the quarterback, right? Like, like they went all in when Tua was on his rookie contract, which is, incredibly smart. That's what all the smart teams do. But now they have to pay him. So let's see how the next couple of years go. Because, I mean, they're in win now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If they don't get it done, I feel like their window is closing faster than the Bills' window is closing. And people wanted to bury the Bills last year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. And I think the difference is the talent at quarterback. Like you said earlier, we feel pretty confident that Allen is a guy that can elevate players around him. Is Tua that same level guy? We haven't really seen that.
We'll see, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see when some of the tough decisions come rolling in. It's going to be a fun year in the NFL, but in the AFC East especially. Let us know what you think. Who you think is going to win the division. If you're watching on YouTube, throw us a comment down below. Tell us who you think is going to win the division. We'd love to hear from you. So leave a comment on YouTube. Shoot us a DM on Twitter. He's at Pietro Betts. I'm at Dynasty Drive. We'd love to hear what your takes for the AFC East are. It's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, please.
You got anything else you want to put out there?
No, yeah, just like you said, please comment on the video, like the video. YouTube likes that stuff, so I think that's it, man. I think that's it on this division. It's going to be a fun year. I'm excited for it.
Same here. If you're listening in audio form, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast or follow the podcast on whatever podcast platform you're using. Drop us a 5-star rating, leave a review, all that good stuff. If you're into it, if you have a couple seconds, it helps on the podcast platforms. We appreciate it. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and share that video with somebody else. Click subscribe, leave a comment, like it, turn on the notifications so you don't miss anything. We're going to have a ton of videos on the YouTube channel this year. Plenty of content for season long. Plenty of content you're going to be able to go back to long after the season's over. You're not going to want to miss any of it. And we will be back next week with what division, Pete? Who are we talking next week?
We're going to talk about the NFC East.
NFC Beast, baby. Yeah.